I talk a lot about journaling here, and most of what I have shared has been my creative journaling, my trendy, like fancy brands that I have been using for the past couple of years. But in reality, that is not what the majority of my journaling journey looks like. And I see people talking a lot about, I don't have the fancy journals, I don't have the fancy brands, I don't know what sort of products to use, I don't know how to make a pretty journal. So I wanted to just take a tour of some of these notebooks to show you a few different approaches that I have taken over the years, because it really does not need to be fancy. And I have recently been experimenting with the very trendy right now form of journaling with stickers and ephemera and designing layouts and incorporating junk journaling. Lots of really fun stuff, but hopefully this here today will reassure you that that is not where the value of a journal lies. I guess that's kind of what I want to share, and just to explore my journaling history with you, because I feel like whenever I look back on these, I discover more things about myself, but also discover more about my own creative process. So I'm going to scooch this off to the side real quick so that we can dive into some of these books. As I was digging through my old notebooks, I initially did not reach for this book. I had never really considered it a journal before, but as I flipped through it, I realized that this is my very first journal of documenting my life. As you might be able to tell, this was from before I was able to write by myself. I was drawing pictures of the things that I was doing in my life. I was going to swimming lessons. I had just started kindergarten. I was climbing, probably not a mountain, I was probably just climbing rocks, riding a camel, riding an elephant, my dad holding the piñata for my Lion King themed party. This is a journal. It's a document of my life. I just didn't have the capability of writing it out. And so what I did was draw pictures of the things I was doing, and I had my mom label them for me, which I'm very grateful for, because her captions are the only reason I know what some of these pages are. Went to Disney World. We've got Pocahontas and Mickey Mouse, a giraffe at the zoo, dinosaur bones at the Children's Museum. And I think what made me finally realize that this is in fact a journal is looking at how I am journaling today, where I am trying to bring in these visual elements. I'm using my words primarily, but also using pictures, using my creativity to make drawings and paintings and whatever other sort of visual things I can stick in here as a way of memory keeping. And so that just illuminated for me that this okay, wow. I'm starting to write my own words here. Playing in the snow is what that says. That's me with my family in our winter coats. But that made me realize that this is the type of journaling that I'm trying to get back into. These drawings of kindergarten in probably 2003. It's been that long since I have really dived in and done this artistic visual journaling. Now we're getting into some random stuff, but primarily this was a memory keeper. This was from a vacation, a picture of a bison licking his nose. Very nice, very nice. But I mean, this is obviously not a very realistic image. Throwing that out there right now. I was not the most incredible artist, and I'm still not the most incredible artist. But looking back at this book, like, I remember going on this vacation and thinking it was so funny that the bison was licking his nose, or that the bison was pooping in the road. I remember the feeling behind these moments, even if I don't have it written out nicely or described, and even if my drawing skills were a little lacking. So if you need that sort of push in your own journaling, if you're thinking, I'm just not that creative, I'm not a very good artist, I can't draw, I'm not very good at making spreads, it's not Instagram worthy, so should I even start? Yes. Yes, you should start, because this is the point, right? Documenting these memories and documenting how I was seeing the world is the whole point. I had gotten an arrowhead on a vacation at a gift shop, so there's my arrowhead. We went to a Sesame Place I think it's in Pennsylvania. And so I got to meet Elmo, and I got to see Elmo's World live. We've got Oscar over here. We've got some random drawings going on in here. I don't even know what we learned. Oh, we learned rocket math. No, I do remember this. We had rocket math in school, which was like speed multiplication, speed addition, subtraction and stuff. I was terrible at this. Oh my gosh. But that's my documentation of we learned rocket math and my little math problem here. Okay, I see. These pages are bringing back so many fond, or maybe not so fond, memories that this is the way that I knew how to document it, right? I maybe didn't have the words for it. I maybe could barely spell, but okay, girl, I don't even know what that is. I went to Chuck E. Cheese, apparently. That's a lovely picture of that. See, I don't even remember what this is. It's Megan crying for Dad. I have no idea why I might have been crying for Dad. I know there were a couple of times he went on like business trips, but I don't remember being that sad about it. He wasn't ever gone for very long, so I'm not sure, genuinely not sure what this was about, but it was me putting my feelings on the page. Even if it doesn't look great, even if it doesn't document it perfectly visually, I put my feelings on the page, and it's beautiful. I'm so glad that I was able to do this, even at such a young age. At this point, I'm probably 7 or 8 as we're coming up on these pages. This is Blue Lights. I think this was me entertaining myself on a flight. This was kind of a travel journal if you think about it. A lot of this is different trips that we had gone on. Sunset in Clouds, I think is what that says. The Wing View. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, I think all of these were me documenting a flight that I was on. This is our hotel room. I don't know if you can read that. So I had this was a staircase. I thought it was so cool that there was a loft. And so I drew the staircase, and then that was the view from the top. You could look down at this sectional couch. And I remember this. I remember this hotel room, I think partially because I remember documenting it. I saw seagulls. We've got some lovely seagull art there. Okay, so this was summer vacation because I was leaving 2nd grade. So I drew a picture of me and my teacher. Intermission, we're back to the seagulls. We had, I don't even remember where this was. That might have been helpful to document at the time, but that wasn't what was important at the time. What was important at the time was that I was trying to eat my hot dog and a seagull came and stole it. That was what was important to 2nd grade, newly 3rd grade me. So I'm glad I have that documented. Yeah, this is me meeting my new teacher in 3rd grade. My origami fox. Very good. See, I'm glad that I did so much drawing because your girl's spelling was not the best at this point. We have an Alaskan moose, very nice. And then this, after all those years, I had kind of abandoned this book, but I did pick it up again in high school. We went to Universal Studios, and so I drew a little globe there. And then I still have lots of empty pages in here, but I think I'm gonna let this book rest now. I think this is a very, very special book. And that said, I will move on to my very first written diary. I do need to unlock this little lock that's keeping it safe so no one can read all of the juicy secrets that I'm sure are in here. Let's see, this is December 29th, 2005. My friend keeps a big zoo with a hamster, a dog, a cat, and some fish. My Play-Doh has mold in it. It looks neat. N-E-E-T, neat. December 30th. My friend's cat ate the hamster. They're getting a new one. It's so sad that Playful Stripe the hamster is dead. I hope the next one will be playful. Its name is Cheddar. And that's, that was me learning the facts of life and having to deal with that. And then we skip to December 30th, 2006. Eli died yesterday. That was my dog at the time. And I feel like this is still indicative of how I tend to handle grief in my journaling. That was all I had to say. It's so interesting to me to look back at a journal that is 20 years old and see that I've kind of handled a lot of these topics the same way even today. Let's see, 6 months later, today is Emma, my friend's birthday, and she got a scrapbook kit from me, which is entirely on brand still. And then it skips to 2009. I have one passage in here from 2009, but I actually moved into a different journal not too long after that. Let me go grab that one. This was my very first long-form journal. I had bits and pieces of writing in these books, but this is where I really started diving into writing both longer entries and maintaining it for more days in a row. I have it decorated with some friendship bracelets, which I do think that consistency is a little bit fun. This is my current journal that I'm working on right now with its notebook jewelry. And then here's my 2009 journal with its notebook jewelry. Some things never change, my friends. Okay, so this is clearly a freebie corporate notebook. It's not cute. And yet, this is one of my very most treasured books because it holds a very specific time of my life. I did tab some of the pages. I started marking these ahead of time before I filmed this, just because I know there's not all that much that can be that serious when I'm 11 years old, but I did start talking about my feelings and frustrations in here. And so some of these pages aren't meant for public consumption, but I did tab a few pages that I could go ahead and show you. So this is my first time visiting Canada. We actually were going on a cruise to Alaska. Super cool. Let's see, I wrote, I love Canada. Everyone here either speaks English or French. Everywhere you think there will be an American flag, you see a Canadian one. Art is weird here. Very nice, very nice observation. So I documented that. I also signed off on all of my entries, which I think is fun. Maybe I need to start doing that again. Let's see. I also, I bookmarked this page because at the kids area, mostly just the babysitting area so the parents can go enjoy their cruise, we did a spooky story night. So I included in my journal that's meant for documenting my days, I wrote down one of the spooky stories that I thought was really fun. Then I had these drawings that I was doing there. I had designed this whole camp for telling spooky stories around the campfire. So there's my story that I wrote, the ghost story. Oh boy. But it is where I start tucking things into the pages, similar to another journal that I have shared on the channel, where I am tipping in bits of ephemera and things I was getting on my travels. So I just think it's really neat that despite the fact that this is not like a fancy aesthetic journal at all, it's got elements that I am still trying to work back into my journaling. This just came naturally as a kid, and now I'm trying to bring these elements back in. I think that's neat. I think it's fun. Let's see. Oh, yes. On the flight back, my dad and I had started making crossword puzzles for each other, and we did some of our planning on the sick bag from the back of the seat. So that's a pretty fond memory as well. This is another very creative way I expressed myself. Turn the page for my feelings about school starting. There you go. There's that. But you know what? It was so creative, and I let my feelings out on the page. And, I would love to do some more of that in my modern journaling. Let's see, what do we have next? All right, now we have a bit of a time skip because this journal goes a couple months of 2013 and then the end of 2015 to the beginning of 2016. So this was primarily a high school journal for me. I did go in and tab a page that seemed pretty safe to share because there are a lot of feelings in here, I have to say. But I wrote about a project I did for Spanish class, had a pep rally at school. Let's see, I was in marching band, so I stayed after school until the football game. And then this day we had band practice. And then our competition got canceled, so we got to go to homecoming, which was something that we didn't always get to do for band. And that was fun. And then I went to Steak and Shake afterwards with some friends. So I'm glad to have that documented because I probably wouldn't remember that I wasn't going to go to homecoming, and then at the last minute suddenly got to go and got to hang out with friends afterward. And then who I went to the dance with, because I went with some friends. That is a lot of what's in this book. I'm not going to flip through it because, oh boy, there's some tea in there. When I finished up that book, I started in here, which doesn't actually start where I left off there because I have this terrible habit of starting a book and then quitting on it. So it has a few entries that were earlier on, and then I went back in years later and finished up the book at the end of high school, so I didn't have a half-finished book. So I don't even know when this was. It says over spring break I went to... I couldn't tell you what that says. I'm glad to have a break. I love spring break. If anyone has any guess as to what quirked moss is, that would be great, because I would love to remember what that trip was. Yeah, don't know when that was. But then it skips to 2011. I marked this page. I went to an event where Debbie Ryan was doing a signing and pictures and stuff, and that was the coolest thing I could imagine in 2011. I loved Disney Channel. So I journaled a lot about that and fangirled all over that page. And then I kind of continued off and on for a year, it looks like. But I bookmarked this page. I thought it would be worth sharing. This was my very first heartbreak, documented on the page. It says, "He doesn't love me. Everything I've ever put my passion into, I dedicated to him. I never want to sing my song, Be Mine, ever again." That is a song that I wrote about my first crush. If I ever hear Not a Love Song again, I might die. Y'all, this is a treasure. It is such a treasure to have this, to see. I mean, yeah, I was dramatic. I was being dramatic, but I was sad. That meant a lot to me, and these were the thoughts I was thinking. I wrote this song for him, and I never even want to sing it again. And look at me now. So much has changed since then. I will just leave it there. And then it skips ahead again. Not too long after that, I picked it up again in 2016 at the end of this book. And this page that I bookmarked was my prom, my senior prom. I wrote about all of the prep that I did, and then going to my hair appointment, going to the park to get pictures taken. I actually read through this recently, and there was a lot about my prom that I didn't remember. A lot that you wouldn't be able to tell from the pictures, so I am so glad that I kept a journal. Then we move into the summer after my senior year. We've got our beautiful Ryan Gosling meme notebook, which is very timely for that time. And it had all of these little bubbles, and so I would fill in a little lame pickup line into these. But there's not a whole lot of content on this page. I just wanted to bookmark sort of what some of these pages looked like. And then we move on to college. This is the book that I used to document moving into college and starting up a very new life phase. I loved these like really heavy gel pens. So I am using a lot of these gel pens for the next like several years. And most of these books were just notebooks that were gifted to me in some way. This was, I believe, from one of my friends for my birthday, and I just loved it. I loved the collect moments, not things sentiment. I loved the pink pleather that unfortunately is completely dying at this point. Ryan Gosling was from my mom. This, I believe, was from my great-grandma around the time that I was this age. This was from my parents because I loved the Hunger Games. This was a freebie. This, I want to say it was like a party favor. And then I believe this was also from my great-grandma. So lots of just using what I had. I wasn't going out and shopping for fancy notebooks. And after that, I moved into a proper travel journal. I did a month-long study abroad program in London. Super cool. And so I wanted to have a special notebook dedicated just to that. I got this book as a graduation gift from a dear friend. She left a little note in there. And then I started documenting my days. I had intended to draw pictures on every page because there was this blank backside of every page. I didn't quite make it. You can see there are a lot of like half-done drawings, but the sentiment was there. And I love having drawings to look back on. Drawings just capture something that photographs can't. I think there's so much value in putting down how you see something rather than just a photograph of what it looks like to your naked eye. There's so much to actually putting the effort into it, into putting it onto the page with your own hands, that it really changes the experience of documenting it and of looking back on it. Got a little picture of Bilbo. He's so cute. Oh my gosh. Got the Doctor Who stuff. I went to a Doctor Who museum. So cool. And I drew this in the hotel room that night. I love looking back at this. And I do kind of wish I had been better about the drawings, but I understand it was a busy trip. I was not able to keep up on it because I was busy experiencing the things. So there's a balance. There's a balance between experiencing the thing and documenting it that I definitely don't want to take for granted or lose. Next, we move into this book that I got on that trip that I was so excited to use. And this, did I mark any pages in this one? Oh, I actually don't see any pages that I marked safe in this one. So here, there's your view of the book. This book encapsulates the time frame in which a cute boy asked me to coffee, and then I started dating him, and then in a few books later, you will see us get engaged and married. So this is just such a treasured book for me to have because I can look back at myself talking about how how this cute boy asked me out, and then thinking through, oh my gosh, do I want to pursue this relationship? There's so much drama in it, guys. There's so much. And next, I moved into another journal that I had started back in, I want to say it was like 2010. And I only got so far into it before giving up on it. So we skipped straight from like 2010 to 2017, I believe. And so it's fun to see the transition period too, because I'm talking about a youth group trip I was so excited to be in, and then we skip forward several years, and I'm able to write, oh my, this journal has some memories in it. Band trips, family vacations, VBS, vlogging, Girl Scout camp, youth group. I can only hope this summer will be that exciting. So this was the documentation of that summer of 2017. That there's not a whole lot that is available for public consumption in there, so we'll just move right along into this book, which I believe I just got at a garage sale or something, but more just words on a page, lots and lots of words on a page. I wrote a lot, and I miss being able to write that much. Someday I'll get back into it. I think a lot of it comes from this being a very transitional period in my life, whereas today my journal entries are pretty repetitive. I still look for things to point out that are different throughout the year, but yeah, this was just a lot of words and a lot of reflection. This is another, I think I got this at a garage sale too. Not my normal style, but I was trying to work through the notebooks that I had on hand before I dove into anything else. I believe this is the last one that I tabbed anything in, just because it's a lot of the same. It's a lot of just words and words and words. So I didn't figure that was too exciting to dive further into, but I have a lot of those. We've got this, this one. This is an interesting choice because I don't read Chinese. This one, I believe these two mostly encompassed my engagement years. That's pretty fun. Entering into being married. Another book. And I think this is where I started slowing down in being able to keep up with nightly journaling. Somewhere in one of these couple of books is when my dad passed away. And again, I think I was suffering the same mindset that caused me to write this entry. I don't know, I think I kind of shut down a bit. Things were very, very overwhelming for a couple of months, before and after the fact. So I wasn't able to process on paper the way that I feel like I usually am. It was taking so much energy to journal, and I pushed through for 1-2 more books. I think in this one I started trying to like work more stickers and ephemera in, but I wasn't able to keep up with it too much. And then I moved into, let me move this pile for a second. Okay. I moved into this book, and I think this book is where I got to the point where I just couldn't keep up anymore. I had some notes jotted down as to what I could journal about, but I have the pages dated, and that was as far as I could get. I couldn't keep up with it anymore. It was just taking so much mental energy. And this, by the way, from this book, from my senior year, I had every single day of my life documented in a journal. I was doing very committed daily journaling, and some days I might get 1 or 2 days behind and then go back and refill it, but I was months behind at this point. And so I finally made a deal with myself. I got this cool new moleskin that I was really excited about, so that I could try doing some of this like fancy journaling, do something cute in it, but I gave myself permission to not journal every single day. And that is what finally helped me break through this slump that I was going through. I took a step back and allowed myself to just document when it would be beneficial to me. And I'm really glad I did that because I finished this book. I think this is 2024 into 2025. And it was that second half of 2025 when I finished this book and I finally came upon the Hobonichi Cousin, and I loved it. I was so inspired by the spreads I was seeing, and I don't know, I wanted to try it, and I loved it. It was a lot of writing. It was a little hard to keep up with, but I loved having this book and keeping it. And so that gets us kind of to where I am today with my 2026 notebook. This is a Hobonichi Weeks. If you've been around the channel, you've seen this all over the place. This is my life right now. And I am keeping up with my journaling by keeping a very tight journaling space. I am mostly just writing in these individual daily little slots, and then I keep my right-hand page for some sort of big story. Or I'll do these vertical entries, so they're a bit longer, but still not too long. So I wouldn't say I am fully over my journaling slump, but I'm working on it. I got past that like 2023 hump where I just couldn't do it anymore, and I am working my way back into being able to write almost every day, if at all possible. Now, these books I was able to keep mostly chronological. I had a few entries here and there that got inserted into the wrong places, but for the most part, I was going just straight through chronological. But there are a couple of, I guess, spin-off books is what you would call it, that I have to show you. This is a travel journal that I got when I went to visit Guatemala. I got to visit, I believe, 4 times. I've got little tabs in here, and it meant a lot to me. So I am very glad that someone on my very first trip had handed out these just like cheap dollar section notebooks and asked everyone to keep a journal, because this is where I have my memories of those trips in here. You'll see I added a little necklace that I got there as well. We are still keeping up with the notebook jewelry here. We start in 2011. So before I was super regularly journaling, but I went back in 2013, went back in 2015, and then I went back in 2016. And for these weeks, I really wanted to keep my travels to the same country all in one book. So I would take a pause in my journal and write basically, hey, I'm going to go to Guatemala this week. If you're looking for documentation of that, look in the Guatemala book. There's a trade-off because I do really prefer being able to flip through journals just entirely chronologically. But I love having a condensed little notebook specifically for a specific experience. And I have pressed flowers in here. I've got a couple of notes that people wrote when I was about to leave. Just lots of, I've got another pressed flower in here. Little pieces of life that I wanted to save. I wanted to go beyond the words. And despite the fact that this is just a cheapy little dollar section notebook, it means the world to me. And similarly, I had a summer camp that I went to all 4 years of high school. It meant a ton to me. And I have a notebook that is what I kept at the time. It's like part journal, part I don't know, we would do like morning reflections. I would write those in there. I've got some like score card from a game we were playing. And I love having everything in this one book. We've got like papers and stuff taped in here. I love having my reflections interspersed with the little bits of life and, whatever I needed to take notes on at the time, whether it was a morning reflection or a game scorecard. I don't know. I really love this book, and something about how unfussy it is so charming to me. I love the cheapy notebook with the thin pages, and I love how beat up it got because I was carrying it with me everywhere. And this is the type of journaling that I treasure. It's so lived in, it's so natural, and this is what I want to pursue as I continue journaling for the foreseeable future. So for anyone who feels like, well, I can't journal. I can't do this or that or this type of journal. Journaling is whatever you need it to be at the time. We've got just a drawing journal. We've got just words journals. We've got journals that are just a bunch of trash thrown into a book. And then we've got our fun stickers and our ephemera. It is all equally journaling. And whatever type of journaling you need in this season doesn't have to be what you do forever. You can pick up whatever feels right for what you need right now, because that's what this is for, right? This isn't for show. This is for giving yourself the tools that you need in whatever season you are in right now. Maybe what would help motivate you is lots of cute stickers to keep your attention on the page. Maybe what would motivate you would be drawing cartoonish versions of the sled dogs that you saw on vacation. Or maybe it's just a page full of words, and that's it. That's all it needs to be. This is all journaling, and it's all something that you will treasure if you just start. Not to get on too much of a soapbox there. This means so much to me, and I want you, if you are interested in journaling, which I would think you are if you are hanging out here on this video, I want you to know you don't have to document every day. You don't have to make it pretty. You just need to show up, and you will be grateful for that. I know that I am grateful to myself for putting the pen to page over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, to where I have this collection, this stack of a documentation of my life and my feelings, my experiences, and who I have been at so many different points in my life. I may not have every single day documented, but I have snippets of the past 20 years sitting here on this desk. Again, not to get up on a soapbox, but even if you don't have your entire life documented up to this point, today could be the first day of your 20 years. Okay, I'll stop waxing poetic. I love these journals, and I really hope that you enjoyed flipping through them with me today too. We went through quite a lot of phases of my life, and flipping through them always inspires me to continue journaling, to put the pen to the page one more time. And so I really hope that it's done the same for you today. Thank you again for spending this time with me. It is such a treasure, and I will see you and your journal next time.